Hello and welcome to today's Key Stage 4 English Literature session on unseen poetry. Now, the reason we're studying unseen poetry is because it does make up a significant amount of your GCSE grade, and it's really important that we do look at the unseen poetry element. Now, today we're going to be looking at the poem by Alan Bodd called Autumn. Now, if you have seen this poem before, fantastic, it means you're extremely well read. If you haven't, that's absolutely fine, because you'll be the same as 400,000 other students in the country. So today we're going to be looking at these questions. Does he describe, so Alan Bodd, does he describe autumn in a positive or negative way, and how do you know? Why does he refer to images like cunningly, robber, accomplice and chaos within his poem? And then finally, for this slide, what is Bold trying to tell the reader about autumn? How does he use his language to get across this message to his readers? And you need to refer to specific quotes and techniques. Now, if we're going in a clockwise direction from the left all the way round, back down and up and round to the top again. So let's have a look at these key quotations. Like an experienced robber. So if he was referring to autumn as an experienced robber, what is he trying to insinuate or convey? Grabbing the green stuff, cunningly covering his tracks, distractions, till the normally placid sky glows red with a quiet rage. All dead leaves are suddenly blown, so branches shake, an air of chaos, the wind is his accomplice, changes the temper of the earth, and the theft chills the world. If there is any vocabulary there that you don't understand, please feel free to search it on Google or use a dictionary to help you. So what I'd like you to do is go through those quotations there and think about how it is describing autumn. Is it describing autumn in a positive or a negative way? Now, also, what do we call it when we give an inanimate object or a thing human feelings and emotions? Do you remember? Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So I want you to pause it there. You can write in your exercise books, you can type it up on a computer if you wish, but do go through each of those quotations and have a look at the three questions there. Okay, so moving on. We're looking at learning outcomes. So what do I want you to achieve by the end of the lesson? I want you to be able to describe the key features, the key language and structural features of the poem Autumn. I want you to explain the effects of these features on the reader. And then finally, I want you to evaluate the effectiveness of our answers based on the success criteria. So let's have a look at the exam question again. In autumn, how does the poet present the effects of the season of autumn? So the question asks you to focus on how autumn affects the landscape, so it changes the landscape and the people. Now, if we have a look at the success criteria, it says, number one, you need to write using clear ideas in a formal manner. And number two, you need to use quotes regularly to support your ideas. So they all hit the assessment objective criteria 1. Number three, the success criteria is techniques are analysed and effects explained. So if, for example, the autumn has been personified, so personification has been used, you need to state that's the technique that's been used, but you need to explain the effects of the methods that has been used. So that's assessment objective 2, and also a central focus on the key theme from the question. Okay, so that is what you're going to be marked against. So moving on, so what we need to work on in terms of the unseen poetry question is this: to make sure we include what language techniques are used by the writer, explain the effects of the techniques on the reader, and discuss how structure is used by the writer to create effects on the reader. So let's go through the poem now. So if we have a look at the poem on the left-hand side, and then on the right, there are some questions there to help you analyse the language. Autumn arrives like an experienced robber, grabbing the green stuff, then cunningly covering his tracks with a deep multitude of colourful distractions. And the wind is his accomplice, putting an air of chaos into the careful diversions so branches shake and dead leaves are suddenly blown in the faces of inquisitive strangers. The theft chills the world, changes the temper of the earth, till the normally placid sky glows red with a quiet rage. Okay, just hearing the tone of my voice and some of the language there, you'll be able to really see how autumn is being described. So let's have a look at the questions at the top. So why is the simile like an experienced robber? Why has that been used to compare the autumn to an experienced robber? Okay, what effect does autumn have on the landscape? So what I'd like you to do is write an answer to that in a paragraph in your exercise books. Okay, and then moving down, why use the aggressive verb grabbing? So if I grabbed your arm and I held it out and I grabbed you, okay, why is that aggressive verb being used? So grabbing the green stuff. Why use the image of green stuff? And then how does personification, so giving human feelings and emotions to autumn, how does it get across the effect of autumn to the reader? Okay, the third set of questions. Why does the writer describe autumn as cunningly covering? So the repetition of the two consonants, cunningly, C, cunningly covering. What does the use of alliteration and personification here get across to the reader about the effects of autumn? Why is the wind described as an accomplice? What is an accomplice? And then what motif, so what reoccurring idea is used throughout this poem and why? And then finally, the last set of questions. How might the strangers feel here and why? How does the autumn change the world when the theft is described as chilling the world? Why is it significant that the sky seems to rage, or what has happened because of autumn? Okay, ladies and gents, that probably will take you a good hour to answer those questions. Feel free to take your time to do it in separate chunks, but there is a lot of the information there to support you. And what we're going to look at now is an exemplar response. So, how does the poet present the effects of the season of autumn through language? So we can say, it seems as though the poet wants us to think of autumn as violent, immoral, and ultimately a thief. The regular use of personification and the aggressive verbs included make this clear to the reader. The autumn robs the world of its greenery. It helps to throw dead leaves into people who are unknown to the autumn, referred to as strangers. Because of autumn, the world is chilled. The sky, which is normally calm, becomes enraged and angry. It is as if the poet wants us to see autumn as a criminal, that it takes far more than it gives. So the poet's use of crime motif throughout the poem really helps to emphasize these ideas to his readers. So there's just a few ideas of how you can go about writing your answers. Try to include a few more quotations though and references to the text. And then finally, guys, for today, the last part we're going to look at is the structure, because what we do tend to find is that a lot of people can analyse the language well, but they find writing about the structure a little bit more difficult. So if we look at the poem, we can actually see really that there are 4 parts to it, even though it is made up of just one stanza, one long line of the poem, one long stanza of the poem from the top to the bottom. So the poem is made up of one stanza, but there is some use of punctuation and caesuras. Now, caesuras are pauses within the poem. So let's answer these questions here. Why are there so few pauses in this poem? What does it do to the pace? And why might the poet want to do this? Why is the wind given its own caesura? Why would the poet want to pause here? And why would the poet want to divide up the poem like this? So again, ladies and gents, this will probably take you a good half an hour to analyse this information and the structure of the poem. But I'm extremely proud of you and I want you to give it your very best shot. Okay, so good luck with the analysis of the language of the poem and the structure of the poem. You can do it. Okay, take care for now. Bye-bye.